Just hello everyone, welcome to the About Me podcast, where we talk about normalization of mental health, feelings, emotions, and everything inside you. I'm your host, Tenzin Dawa, and I'm with my guests, Dawa and David. Dawa, as you all know, is a lifestyle influencer from Munich, Germany, where she makes video with her husband about makeup, beauty, fashion, and everything that you know. So, Dawa, hi. David, hi.
Hi.
How are you feeling? Like, what's your emotions at the moment?
What's your emotions, Amore?
I'm fine. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm relaxed because I'm home, back home. So yeah, I'm happy too.
Yeah. Okay. So you recently been to Dharamsala at the moment. Well, so what were your experiences? What do you all do there?
In Dharamsala?
Yeah.
My palace stays in Dharamsala, so
Okay.
it was my third time over the past 1 year.
Okay.
I came in October last year, and then in April, and then this October again,
Okay.
making papers for my father.
Okay.
But, yeah.
The usual stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but India as a whole, it has changed a lot because the last time we were here was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so amazing to see so much of growth, so much of advancement, and I feel like we are getting better and better, and even in the last 8 months, I mean, it has grown so much. So yeah, it's amazing.
David, what about you? What are your thoughts about when you stay in a place like Dharamshala, the home of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, actually?
It's very different. It needs some getting used to, but over the past years I got used to it. It's very relaxed, very nice environment, I need to say.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer like if you had to live one place in the world? Would you prefer to live in Dharamshala or Germany or Munich?
I don't know because I haven't experienced living in India.
Yeah.
I only come here for holiday,
Yeah.
so I know Italy and Germany to live in,
Yeah.
but it might be a good experience to live here as well.
Okay. So, Dawa, you are a big influencer in yeah, for us and for your fans, you are a big
Okay.
influencer, right? So we want to talk more about your past lives and your history, like where you grew up, where were you born, and all that stuff. So would you care to tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Arunachal in Bomdila.
Okay.
And my mother was really adamant on studies, so I went to 2 schools. I used to do an English medium school in Bomdila as well, and then I used to also go to I also used to frequent a school in Kalimpong. So we had houses in both of the cities. So I grew up in West Bengal and I grew up in Arunachal. So I have the best of Northeast, let's say that. And then I think I was about 4 or 5. My father came from Dharamsala because we had my father used to work in Dharamsala.
Okay.
And my father came back and he said, Peppa Pomo Pege Shingamindu, because I used to frequent an English medium school.
Yeah.
And then he took me from there and then put me in Lojasi to learn Tibetan, because I think he really wanted to teach me the tradition, culture, and I was
Yeah.
becoming really Western in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, he wanted to bring me back to roots.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, a transition, my first transition, because I've been transitioning all my life. So yeah,
So was that transition hard, do you feel?
I think I was about 5 or 6, so it was pretty easy because as a kid you do adapt, right? You do
Yeah.
adapt to new circumstances, new surroundings. You make friends very easily as a
Yeah.
kid. I did not know a word of Tibetan then.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to speak in Nepali and in English with my Amla, although my Amla is like pure Tibetan, but still, Northeastern.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and I think I did not came in the beginning of the year. I did not come in the beginning of the year. I came, I think, when they were having their second term exam.
Okay.
So I had to learn Tibetan pretty quickly in about a month.
It was a more difficult transition
Yeah.
than if you had to come at the beginning of the year. It would
Yeah,
have been easier. So you
yeah, and then it was really different because I came from a very strict school, and then here it was all about you can ask questions about religion, you can debate and stuff, right? We don't have that. I mean, like if you ask question about religion in St. Joseph Convent,
Yeah.
like, you will get No, I'm kidding. But yeah. So it was cool as well. I learned a lot about my tradition. I made some amazing friends, and I think as growing up in Tisui, I think one of the biggest support system are your friends. And you make them really easily because you never let someone eat alone in break. Right? So if you see someone alone, you're like, sure,
You open one tiffin and 5 people are there.
So I think making friends was super easy, and I learned a lot about my culture, and I think that was the easiest transition.
So in lower TCV, were you a day scholar or were you a hostler?
I was a day scholar because my father is really protective, and my mom too. So and they were like, oh my god, my daughter doesn't speak Tibetan, so I was a day scholar.
So day scholar, I've always feel like they are the lucky ones. Do you feel like you were the lucky one?
I mean, I got to see my mom and my pala every day.
Often,
so right. So that was cool. I got the best of school, but at the same time, I think one thing that was missing was I did not get to enjoy the free time a lot with my friends that boarding school, like boardings have.
In your life, have you ever been a hostler, been in a boarding?
Yeah, I have. I really wanted to experience the hostel life. And my pala was already saying, okay, you have to go for your +1 and +2. So you're saying, okay, I'll look for an apartment in Gopalpur, so maybe for 2 years I can come there and then you can be a day scholar. And I was like, Pala, please, let me go and enjoy my boarding life. Because by then I was also in my teens, I wanted to have my boyfriend and stuff, right? So I came back. Actually, I went after 10th, I went to Italy.
Okay.
And then I came back and I really wanted to stay with my friends a lot. So I experienced boarding life in Gopalpur, which was amazing. I had a lot of fun.
Okay, you had a lot of fun, but we know, I've also been in a hostel before. So I've always felt when I'm in a hostel, even though we are surrounded by lots of people, there's always a sense of, should I say, aloneness or loneliness. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt that detaching from that family environment? So it was a transition. That's also a transition from living with your parents all the time to now staying in a hostel. So what was your experiences with that?
I think the detachment I did not feel as much in Gopalpur because it was the first time also because I came from lower. I never experienced children who came from Tibet actually. So we were all in an environment in lower where everyone grew up in India, was born in India and stuff, and for the first time I saw kids being there for kids as a support system, as a family and everything, and that was beautiful. I made so many friends. One is there and behind the camera. And I did not feel so much of detachment because my father was right here in Dhamsala, so every now and then I'd be like, Pala, and then he would come. So it was easy. More of the detachment I felt actually when I was in Italy, for my university, and then further on there, because the cultures are way more different. People like to let people be alone because they think okay, they need their own time and they need their own alone time. But I wasn't used to that coming from our culture. So that was a little more hard to get used to.
David, have you ever felt that as well? The same question which I asked her. So have you ever felt that when you were in a young teen, so when you were around the age of 10 to 15, it's a very hard time of period, So have you ever felt that kind of loneliness? Have you, even though loneliness can't be if you're staying alone, you're feeling lonely. It can be in a crowd of people as well. So have you ever felt that as a kid?
I am half Italian and half German. So I'm nowhere at home. Or I am in both countries at home. I was always a little different than the others, but I grew up in a very small town, very, very small, 2,000 people. So everyone knew everyone, and that made it easier to be a group of people. All the children from one age, there was 10 children, no more than that in that age. So it was all fine, all in a group.
So, Dawa, right? You have been a big influencer. You've been in the field of social media for a long time now, more than 10 years, I guess, right? More or less.
More or less.
So, what do you think social media influences your mental health in general? Because mental health is a problem which has social media and mental health nowadays goes hand in hand. If you see, they say they blame social media for a lot of now it can be debatable it is or not, but what are your views on that? Have you felt social media in general has affected better your mental health or anything?
For me, I think because while I was having a few problems with mental health and coping with my own mental health issue, social media wasn't really that of a big thing for me, at least, because I was really focusing on studies. I was in my pre-years of university, and it was more about, okay, the people I was seeing in front of me and what they were doing and all that. But I feel like over the years, social media actually made it, in a way, in our society, a topic to talk about and to normalize it as well. Because when I was growing up, I think what was missing in my life was the normalization of mental health. And when I was figuring out what was anxiety, why I was having panic attacks, or what was depression, it was all, in a sense, catered to being mental or being mad or being a taboo, or like in that sense, right? And not it wasn't normalized. And now I feel like when that's why I came out as well, and I said, hey, I struggled with mental health. I struggled with everything there is in the books, okay? So when I came out, even like younger girls coming up to me and saying, Aja, I feel like, like when I go in a crowded place, I cannot breathe and stuff. Now they're asking me as well, and I feel like at least you have someone to talk to, or you feel like, okay, she looks happy, but like, if she struggled as well, maybe it's not a bad thing to go seek for a therapist or whatever. So I think that helped a lot. I think in a community where we are in a sense not that informal with our parents, we still have to respect, and we are still scared of opening up. Social media can be a really great key for younger generations to check on mental health, like study, and then even them, like even Chisem, like spreading awareness about mental health issue and then normalizing the whole thing.
Okay, you talked about mental health issues in your own life. Can you expand a little more, because I think our viewers would love to hear you about talking about this stuff, because when a person like you, who has always been a beautiful person in the social media, and if she has suffered from mental health, so anybody can, right? So can you expand a little more? What type of experiences? You talked about panic attacks, anxiety. What was the experience like?
So I had PTSD, so which is post-traumatic stress disorder, because when I was 6, my Amla suffered from a chronic disease, and she couldn't really get up on herself, by herself, or she wasn't really self-sufficient anymore, so she was bedridden. And growing up, she was my hero. She was the most beautiful girl in the town. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I come from Bomdila, and she was known as Snow White. Okay, her nickname was Snow White. So seeing her from that, becoming a person who's always bedridden, who cannot even sit by herself. She needed like cushions stacked up, and by the end of I think when I was around 14, she couldn't even eat properly by herself. I think that was when I think my mental health started degrading. But I think my mind put it in the back of my brain and said, okay, that's normal, right? Because we also have a lot of pressure with our studies and then doing good. And I was like an A student. I was very good in studies, and I was supposed to do good. And then, people also like Paichikpa, and everyone used to say like, you came from an English school, you need to do good and stuff. So I was focusing on that. But the moment my Amla passed away, I think I started showing signs of depression. And my mom, my Italian mom, I'm adopted by the way, so my Italian mom was like, okay, hey, why don't you come here for university? And then my mom had talked to my pala, saying, hey, I think she needs a therapist. And then when I went there, it was like, it's the same situation when an army is in a war zone, and whatever he's seeing, he thinks that is normal, okay? He normalizes that, and when he comes back from the war, he's like, oh shit, what did I just experience? And that is post-traumatic stress disorder. So when I went to Italy, then I had like my mental health bursted. And then I had panic attacks, I had social anxiety, I had chronic episodes of mental breakdown and everything. So, but for the longest time I was in denial. I was like, no, I'm not mad, and my mom was like, you are not mad, this is okay. But Tibetan millennial thinking like, no, I'm not mad, I'm not going to any psychiatrist, they'll put me in the hospital. But at the end of the day, I think I was in a safe place because of my parents, my Italian parents, and in an environment where it is accepted. So that helped me a lot. And my boyfriend, at that time, who was my support system.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, sure.
David, like same question. Have you ever felt that as well? Like were in that place as well, like depression, anxiety, or any type of stuff?
No, not really. But I felt.
No, he suffered because of me. Because someone, when someone is having those chronic episodes of being really mean, and someone is actually having those chronic episodes of mental health, they tend to show a lot of violence. They tend to show a lot of emotional outburst, and actually not the person who is suffering mental health. But the more stress is on the people who are at the surroundings. So they have to be very strong, and they have to be very, very forgiving. And and that's where he suffered. He suffered a lot, actually.
David, did you think you suffered when you were helping them?
Be honest.
It was hard, but it's the same as if someone has a broken leg, you automatically help them because you can see their problem. But when the problem is not physical but mental, maybe it's a little more difficult to understand.
Because you can't see it.
You can't see it. It's not obvious. But once you understand that it's exactly the same thing. It's one illness and another illness. So you just stay there and help till it gets over. It never really gets over, but it gets better. And that's fine.
That's good. So we talked about depression, we talked about social media, right? So in social media as well, we know there is hate. Hate is everywhere, right? Even if you're doing the best thing in the world, even if you're doing philanthropist work, should I say it, there's still hate from people. So you as an influencer, you obviously have suffered hate in the past or whatever it is. So like what type of hate have you encountered and how have you dealt with it?
Okay, so I think the worst was when I put the first initial pictures I put with David.
Okay.
And and I think because I come from a very traditional family. I come from Jisotang, and Pala is actually a parent. So people look up to him, and I know these things doesn't matter anymore right now, but let's be honest, when I was growing up, people still cared a lot about bloodline. Also okay, like a parent's daughter, what example is she showing to all of the rest of Mankam community, or whatever community they're from. So I think that was the biggest amount of hate I got. But it wasn't when I was an influencer. Let's be honest, right? So I was out there in social media, but I think it was more about personal attacks, and then also like threats, death threats, like strange threats. And I was thinking, oh my God, how ugly can it get? Also like messages to him. I told him to disable his comments or messages. So he didn't. It was from very orthodox people, so they wouldn't even write in English. So that is somewhere where I was a bit more like relaxed and like David wouldn't understand, right? But that was, I think, the most. And then also that was during a time when I was struggling with mental health. So it only worsened my whole situation. and it got to a point where I couldn't even get out of my room, because I think that really affected me. And also, like, people, I think for me it was fine if someone says something to me, it was fine, but someone coming and
your family,
coming at my family or talking about my pala, like not giving me good enough like traditional values or culture values and stuff, that was, I think, pretty heartbreaking. But you learn and then you get over it. And now if someone says something about me, I'm like, oh, maybe he's just having a bad day. And I'm the outlet, so it's fine. Tomorrow he'll regret, he'll delete the comment, and they do it, so that's fine. Now I don't even feel it, it's fine.
So David, how did you feel at that moment? Did you feel a sense of anger towards these people, or like, because she was suffering from it, right?
Yeah, I only felt the reflection, so I didn't feel, as she said, the attacks on me, because I mostly didn't understand them. I still felt sad because she was sad or angry. So if she was angry, I was angry. But she
wanted
also,
to punch.
But she also explained why those people were acting that way. So there was some kind of understanding of why they would say that. And I was only sad because she was sad. Other than that, I'm not a very social person. I'm not on social media, so that doesn't really affect me much. I need to be honest.
One thing I have to say, David is very understanding. So, sometimes, like, I think even us or me as a person, we have this instant reactions, right? Like if someone says something mean or something like you have this instant aggression. David, I never saw him having that. If you explain, he always tries to understand the reasoning behind why the person is acting in that way. He's very mature. I don't know why. He's very mature. I don't know why, but he is, and he understands. Like when I told him like the cultural values and why they are aggressive, and also like we have like a population that we need to preserve, and when he understood that, they were like, I can understand why they're angry. And I think for that I respect him even more.
So during your talks right now, you told us about therapy. You joined therapy as well. How did that help you? Because therapy, even though it has become a very normal thing nowadays, but like strange thing that people are still very opposed to. When you go to therapy, it's like, why is he going to therapy? Maybe he's something like that. But anything you can say, right? So therapy. So what was your experiences, and why do you think therapy in general should be like? Do you think therapy in general should be more commercialized, or more talked about?
Yes, absolutely. Please, therapy is very normal. You don't have to go to a therapist only when you're suffering from depression. Like there are also couples therapy. If you are not understanding each other and you're fighting all the time, maybe you just need a third person's perspective. Like maybe a person from the outside is seeing why you guys are clashing. So it's very normal. I went to all kinds of therapy. Oh my God. I went to a psychologist. I went to a psychiatrist. I had animal therapy. Puppy therapy. So I had all of them, and I think it really made me evaluate what I was going through. So therapy is not like, nobody will tell you are suffering from this, you are having this chronic outburst of emotion because you are suffering from it. It's not like that. Therapy is just like, they will just ask you more and more questions, and you start opening up, and they'll make you realize what you are having, why you are having these emotions, right? And I think it's more about finding out yourself. And your own problems, and you're going back to the root of the problem and what triggered you to have these feelings right now. So it's about more finding out your own emotions and what was hidden, or what your brain hid for those years, or what triggered you, or what, I don't know, what gave you those feelings, what made you mad. So I think it's very, very normal. It should be normalized. And I think now there are also very easy apps as well, like Better Health, right? So Better Health is so easy. You can go on your computer, check a therapist. If you don't really feel comfortable with that therapist, you can go to another one. It's not like you have to literally sit in a cab, go to a place, find a therapist, you can do it in half an hour, a session. It's very normal. It should be normalized. And also, in Germany, in now in universities, they have therapists in there because so many students need it as well. So for example, you guys are all students, right? How much stress do you have, right? You need to complete your semester, you have like extracurricular, you need to think about your career, and then also not only a counselor is there, it's good, but you should normalize therapists as well in there, you know, to really check on, okay, how you're coping with your mental stress or mental issue, or are you having like mental stress that you can cope with or not. So I think it should be normalized.
That's good.
Thank you.
So the last question, and we'll conclude on that. This is a question which we'll be asking, even though this is the first podcast, first episode, we'll be asking in the future as well. So question to both of you, right? What type of advice, I'll start with you.
Okay.
What type of advice would you give to a younger self, you know?
To myself?
Yeah, to a younger self, not your younger self when she was struggling with those mental health issues and whatnot. So what advice would you give it right now?
I think the biggest advice I would give myself would be to calm down. To calm down and just, you know, like, I would like to tell myself that it does get better, you know, like you don't have the whole community's responsibility on your shoulders. So just chill out, just think about yourself, and it does get better. It works out, everything works out. University is, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but it's not the only option. Okay, so like if you feel like, okay, you're struggling, and if you failed, or if you, like, you know, if you couldn't complete, it's not the end of the world. There are so many different outlets, and choosing a creative outlet doesn't mean you'll be broke, because there are many outlets that will make you way richer than your degrees. So yeah, I'll tell them, I'd love to tell myself those things, because those were the things that really hyped me up and then gave me really like anxiety though when I was young.
So what about you, David?
The opposite. I would tell my 18 to 20-year-old self, get off your ass and do something, because I was very lazy in those years.
Not true.
18 to 20, 20 to rest of the life was the opposite. So I've been working my ass off.
Do you regret that years of your life? Because sometimes being lazy is also very, being laid back is also a fun stuff.
Yeah, you should enjoy that.
I could have done more.
No. Now, when he's saying he was lazy, 18 to 20, I'll tell you how lazy he was. When he finished his school, he's finished his school in Italy, went to Germany, worked for a whole year, built his bank account, and came back to do university. I don't think that's lazy. I don't think lazy is being sitting at home and doing nothing.
But I could have been a little more entrepreneurish in those years. Instead of just doing the first thing I found. But other than that, it's all fine. I mean, like, that could have been a little better. But the rest is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we conclude our first episode of our podcast about me. Thank you, everyone, and keep listening.